Hey everyone, James Reeves with TFBTV. Now I heard that Palmetto State Armory might be giving away a free car CD player with the purchase of any upper, so I think you should go check that out. Go treat yourself. Get a car CD player and a nice new Palmetto State Armory upper. Now that the Taurus owners are gone, let's talk about the top 6 Tuxedo Guns. I feel like I've teased the Tuxedo Gun over the years on TFBTV. What is a Tuxedo Gun? I've previously defined it as an expensive but aesthetically pleasing gun, almost exclusively all-metal construction. It typically offers few, if any, pragmatic advantages over less expensive handguns, and usually at the cost of higher weight or decreased capacity. From a purely fiscal standpoint, however, they tend to be pretty good investments. More or less, this is your carry gun when you get invited to a costume de rigueur, old crew Mardi Gras ball, or if you're trying to smash Juno Skinner at a fancy mansion party in the Alps put on by the Crimson Jihad, or if you're meeting the Pope. It's not the most practical gun you own, but it doesn't need to be because the risk of danger is low and the risk of having to flex on your buddies or pick this thing up off the floor the next morning is high. Very high if you take my advice with this list. So bust out the shoulder holster and your Mont Blanc wallet with a rubber ring worn into it, because we're talking the top 6 Tuxedo Guns. One more note. All of these guns are Western European. I'm sorry, but it almost feels like a de facto requirement. Don't bring your F-150 Raptor with your truck nuts and all your Salt Life bullshit on it to the Monaco Grand Prix, and don't bring your Charter Arms Bulldog to the goddamn Catalina wine mixer. Number 6, favorite of mine, and in fact I'm slightly ashamed to admit that I just bought my second copy of this exact same gun, the gun used by Trinity in the Matrix, the backup pistol used by the Heat Cruise gun guru Shah. It's an excellent choice. The Beretta 84 Cheetah, specifically the 84 BB. The Cheetah is elegant, well balanced, made in Italy by the oldest gun company in the world, Beretta, with sleek lines and a timeless look. I specify the 84 because out of the 81 series, this one has the highest capacity of the most powerful round it's chambered in. The Cheetah is chambered in 380, 13+1 capacity, which is pretty decent firepower for a gun that was produced 40 years ago. It's actually the least expensive gun in this list because you can still find copies in great shape for $400 or $500 online today, although they'll be lightly used by some European law enforcement agency that does like 2 magazines a year for qualification. You have the option of going with blued or nickel, both of which will look great. Grips for them are plentiful and reasonably priced with a variety of different materials available. You can go with the OEM synthetic or wood grips, or you can easily find any number of sharp accoutrements for this pistol. And if you like the grips that I have on my copy right here, these came from Lock, L-O-K, Lock Grips. They just sent me a free set. I've got no relationship with them whatsoever. I just think they make really nice grips, and they're slimmer too to make it easier for carry. And of all the Beretta 84s, I like the Beretta 84 BB the best because I like the slide serrations that it has on it, and more importantly, it's the only model you can carry cocked and locked. That means you can cock the hammer, engage the excellent ambi frame-mounted safety, and you can carry the gun like this without worrying about it going off. Whenever you're ready, disengage this thumb safety, and you get that fine Italian single action trigger pull throughout. Oh, and this one's no problem to carry in a waistband, a shoulder holster, or even a garter belt. Mamma mia. Number 5 gotta be the Walther PPK. I love this piece of shit. Famously known as James Bond's gun, it's often considered to be the end-all, be-all of Tuxedo guns because of that positive association between Bond, tuxedos, PPK. It's so strong that I bet there are a lot of you out there who are going to be pissed off that this gun's so low on the list. But hear me out. No question, this is one sexy ass pistol. It doesn't matter what finish it comes in, it looks great. Blued, stainless, whatever. It's also thin, albeit a little bit heavy considering it uses all steel construction. Most of them were made in Germany, but many were made in the US under license of Walther themselves over the years. The design's timeless, even though this gun was designed almost 100 years ago. No aesthetic improvement is required. It might be one of the most beautiful handguns ever made. I truly mean that. Unfortunately, in many circumstances, this is a heavy piece of shit. I've owned a number of PPKs in .22 and .380 made in the US, France, Germany. Manurhin made them in France for a while. Yeah, it's great. You can almost stuff it into a pocket or in a cummerbund if you're really clever, but who gives a shit if you can't get through a mag full of hollow points without it choking like David Carradine. It weighs 1.5 pounds, which is pretty chunky for a gun this size that only holds 7 or 8 rounds at .380, depending on the model you get. The PPK is the German swimsuit model secretary mistress of guns. Nice to look at, but it doesn't work worth a damn. I did get to speak with Walther at SHOT Show 2022, and they mentioned that they're bringing production back in-house to Germany, where they claim that they're making a revised Walther PPK that's going to be 100% reliable. It's been out for a while. I should buy one and test it. I swear I'll request a copy as soon as this video runs and let you know how that goes. Number 4 is my controversy slot as usual, and this gun's perfect for the number 4 slot because it's following the PPK. This is the German Sig P230, or the P232 works. They were designed directly to compete with the PPK, to outclass it. Essentially, the P230 series came about in order to please police forces who wanted the same style of handgun as the PPK and the same caliber, but in a lighter package with better ergos, more features, better reliability. The P230 achieved all of that while still looking pretty damn great, therefore making it arguably a better Tux gun than the Walther PPK. If you're going to beat the PPK at its own game, then you better play by PPK rules. It uses a fixed barrel, straight blowback configuration. It's a slim single stack with a 7+1 round capacity and 380 ACP. The PPK uses a combo safety decocker that's slide mounted. It also uses a frame mounted magazine release and an exposed hammer. The P230 is designed to be much slimmer. It's got flat controls, a bobbed hammer that keeps the gun slim, and it prevents snagging on clothing whenever you're drawing from concealment. The magazine release is this European heel style release, which isn't as fast as like a button magazine release, but it's harder to depress it accidentally while you're carrying. The blued version uses an anodized aluminum frame that makes it lighter than the PPK at just 18 ounces, and they make a stainless option that's a little bit heavier if you like that look. These were issued to miscellaneous police forces in Asia and Europe, but they were also used by real-life spies at one point when undercover British SAS agents used them as carry guns. The P230 best bonds PPK because it's lighter, it's easier to conceal, it probably shoots a little bit better, it's more reliable, and you can still pick them up for less than a PPK secondhand if you look hard enough, and they still look pretty damn classy. But don't you hate it when you're trying to get the code, please, from some Ivy League asshole in a John Phillips suit that it would be a shame to ruin because you're trying to get the $640 million in negotiable bearer bonds in the vault? I suggest you count to 3. That is, the number 3 gun on this list, the H&K P7M8. In the 1970s, the German police realized it was time to switch to 9mm, so they solicited manufacturers for guns to replace their .32 caliber Walther PPs with. H&K's entry was very HK. That is to say, it was extraordinary in terms of fit and finish, overly complicated than its competitors, and expensive. While 99% of 9mm pistols out there use just some sort of purely mechanical simple delay device, the P7 uses a gas-operated system with a piston in front of the trigger guard. It also features a fluted chamber to increase extraction reliability and a pinned fixed barrel to allegedly increase accuracy. Moreover, it was a so-called squeeze cocker because you have to squeeze the grip in order to cock the striker, which translates to a very light and crisp single-action type trigger pull. Additionally, I've heard anecdotal stories of people having their P7s wrested away from them during a struggle, but their assailants being unable to use them on the owner because of this sophisticated squeeze cocking system. Speaking of sophisticated, these guns are boo G. Well, a P7 ran about $1,000 when it first came out, which is a hell of a lot of money still in the 80s. P7s these days can run anywhere from $2,500 to over $10,000 depending on the model. The standard P7 M8 was slim, handsome, reliable, and accurate, so it's a shame they stopped making them in 2008. They make great Tuxedo guns because they're excellent pistols with great collector value, and whether or not you're showing it to the Sultan or one of the principles of the Asian Dawn movement, you're going to be able to relate. They even saw adoption with classy mofos like the German Federal Police's elite GSG-9 counterterrorism unit and German Army Special Forces. But at a whopping 28 ounces, it's a little chunky for holding only 9 total rounds of 9mm. But you wouldn't notice the weight when your valet is carrying it around on top of a velvet fringed pillow at your next engagement. And can we please talk about how many pickup lines you can work into? Did you know that this gun is a squeeze cocker? Number 2, more like number 210, because our next Tux gun is the Sig 210 carry. The Swiss Sig P210 from 1949 was a weird hybrid of a gun. Part duty pistol, part tournament pistol. It was built in stereotypical Swiss fashion with great fit and finish and a legendary trigger. It was used by the Swiss Army for several decades, and after it was relieved of its duty in 1975, it was made for another 30 years until it was discontinued in 2005. If you could find, or if you can find, an original Swiss copy in the United States, you're talking several G's. Eventually in 2010, Sig Sauer of the United States reintroduced the P210. Yes, is this one a bit of a loophole since I said all the guns on this list were European? However, we're going to allow the US-made 210 on the list. Sig did make some mechanical changes to the original gun and some performance improvements. CNC designing, a nitron steel frame and slide, walnut wood grips, target sights, a 5-inch barrel. It carried the 210 name proudly. Sig engineers even took pains to ensure that the trigger was identical to the original, and by God, it is. I tested 3 copies of the 210 against each other when I was up at Exeter. I tried a pristine Swiss original version against 2 US-made versions with my eyes closed, and I absolutely could not tell the difference. I'm not lying to you. But the full-size 210, a bit heavy at 37 ounces with a full-size 5-inch barrel. It's got Tux Gun creds, it's got Tux Gun pricing, but a full-size steel pistol will stretch out your Super 120 trousers, bro. The 210 carry, on the other hand, was just put into production this year, and it takes all of the best features of the 210, but in a lighter, smaller package that's easier to carry. The Sig P210 carry is a single-stack, single-action-only pistol. It uses an aluminum frame and a 4.1-inch barrel, which brings weight down half a pound from the full-size version. You get night sights and black G10 checkered grips. Otherwise, the trigger and everything else are the same. Now, while I've gotten my hands on the 210 carry over the years, I finally got to review the production copy of it only a few weeks ago, and I shot fantastic groups with it. Even though you can't mount an optic, I outshot my optic-equipped P365 XL with the 210 carry, mainly because of that delicious, crisp, single-action trigger pull. The P210 carry is a great Tux gun because it's a little bit like taking an old Rolls-Royce Silver Cloud and dropping like a new Mercedes S-Class engine in it. It's got the same look and feel, but it's got some modern improvements. And at $1,500, this gun's about middle of the road, price-wise, for the Tuxedo gun list. Moreover, this gun is current production. It's currently being made, so unlike your P7, it won't hurt as much to run a few boxes through it at the range. Now for the ultimate Tuxedo gun. It ticks all the boxes. It's classy. It's reliable. It was used by some fancy European anti-terror unit. It involves copious amounts of hand fitting and hand finishing, and it's expensive as f***. While I would say technically the H&K P7 is the most expensive gun on this list as we sit here today, if you look purely at the cost of the gun when it was in production and adjust it for inflation, the Manurhin MR73 is still the most expensive gun on this list. The French GIGN is one of the most elite counterterrorism units in the world, made up of only 400 operators. They have a flawless track record. They've rescued over 1,300 hostages over the years, and in their most famous operation, the GIGN executed a picture-perfect rescue mission of a hijacked Air France plane in 1994. The Manurhin MR73 was explicitly developed for the GIGN. Its accuracy and durability are perhaps unmatched for a service revolver, and on that mission in 1994, the MR73 itself was responsible for taking out 3 terrorists. The GIGN insists that the MR73 be the most durable revolver ever made, and each MR73 fires over 40,000 rounds of Norma 158 grain 357 Magnum over a year of training. Legend has it that at least one MR73 went over 1 million rounds without a parts failure. They're also accurate. Each revolver has a cold hammer forged barrel and is hand tested at the factory to be capable of firing a .8 inch 15-round group at 25 yards. Even though the MR73 is tough and accurate, it's also gorgeous. Each gun sees 12 hours of hand fitting, hand finishing at the factory with a deep bluing that's so well done it has a mirror finish. It almost looks like solid oil. The heat-treated steel trigger and hammer give a nice warm gold tone contrast. The frame and the cylinder are machined from forged billet steel. The steel has been procured from the exact same source since the original in 1973. The MR73 is factory-proof fired with 357 Magnum that's 30% overpressured, and the MR73 can allegedly handle up to double the power of a standard 357 Magnum load without damaging the gun. The trigger pull is an amazing, smooth 8 pounds in double action and a crisp 3 pounds in single action, and the weight's user adjustable. While the MR73 is a hefty 34 ounces, at least it'll use almost any Smith & Wesson K-frame revolver holster, so you can get something at about any finish you want, from ostrich to critically endangered pangolin, whatever. This gun has the best trigger of any revolver I've shot, and it might be the most beautiful gun I own. The bluing is so perfect that even the lightest fingerprint will leave an oily smudge. So which is more expensive, Beluga Caviar for $150 an ounce, or the MR73? For $3,600 at 34 ounces, the MR73 isn't quite up to high-end sturgeon egg prices, but it's close, it's far more practical, and I guess that makes it a bargain. We better close this video out before those Taurus owners find out that they're not actually giving away free CD players at Palmetto State Armory. Thanks as usual for watching. Thank you to our supporters on Subscribestar, Patreon, Utreon. Thank you to our sponsors, Top Gun Supply, your online shooting sports superstore, and Ventura Munitions, the best ammo company in the entire world. But thank you to you all most of all for watching, and take care.